Alright, cannot connect to Flash server given IPs. Alright, let's do that. Can you do me a favor? Could you go get Victor upstairs really quick?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on, I'm just checking the broadcast settings. Alright. Let's see, I think we are live now. We should be good. I'm just gonna double...
Checking the page, resetting it.
And... Are we good?
Yeah, it says the live button on there.
Sweet. Can you see our pretty faces?
Oh, yeah. We're good to go.
Excellent. Then we are good to go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Week in Geek. I am your host, Blake Morse, up here in the teeny tiny top corner. Over there, even tinier than me, in the top right corner, is my good friend Bobby Venmous. And taking center stage today, we are very pleased to have with us Mr. Doug TenNapel. How are you doing today, Mr.
Good, I'm doing good.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's such a pleasure to have you. You know, as somebody who grew up playing Earthworm Jim on both the Genesis, the Super Nintendo, and the Sega CD, we are very happy to have you here.
Hey, the Sega CD, that's a rare, juicy version. Thanks for having me on, Blake.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know this already, Doug, you are currently working on a Kickstarter project called Armikrog. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that right now, and then we'll kind of go into it a little more in depth.
Sure. I've done this spiel enough times now to really have it down pat. Armikrog is a point-and-click adventure game. The actual campaign is being run by Pencil Test Studios, who they're owned by. It's Mike Dietz and Ed Schofield. And Mike Dietz and Ed Schofield are the two guys that I did Earthworm Jim, the Neverhood, and Skull Monkeys with. So we're kind of going back to our point-and-click adventure gaming roots with Armikrog. We have a lot of fans that have asked for more puppet animation, and we don't see enough puppet animation being made in games, so we're here to solve that problem.
Nice. So you guys have, like a lot of developers nowadays, gone to the internet and decided to crowdsource this, and you're closing in. You're pretty close to your goal, it seems, and we got enough. Go ahead.
We're doing great today. You know, we're in the final 3 days of the campaign, or 2.5 days of the campaign. So today we're getting big numbers. So the last 2 days have doubled the previous days. So we're starting to see, coming out of that lull, we're starting to see the big uptick and the reverse bell curve that happens on Kickstarter.
Nice.
And it really is weird because there's no one here to save us and no one here to rescue us. There's no big publisher to step in and save the day. We even see on the forum and stuff where people keep saying, oh, you're now a Wii U developer, so Nintendo can come in with the final 200K. And that is not our plan. Our plan has always been to rely on the donors and to rely on the players and see if they're out there. And so far, they're responding. They're coming in bigger and bigger numbers. So
nice.
I can't emphasize enough. Put our project aside. Kickstarter and crowdfunding is the future of games. Not necessarily Kickstarter, but crowdfunding is the future of games. If you look at where entertainment has been and where it's going, the pie slices are getting, smaller and smaller and more precise delivery. And the crowd, because of the internet, the players are taking more and more control, not only of how well a game succeeds, but now, for the first time, whether if a game exists in the first place or not. And I just think, I'm always reminding players that they have a lot more power than they think they do. And donors, just saying, if you guys only woke up, you could completely take over games overnight. And publishers and people, frankly, people who don't actually make the game or don't actually fund the game will have no say in the game. It will only be that relationship between developer and player.
So you gotta put your money where your mouth is right now, sort of.
Yeah, please give. We need all those donors. We need people to cough. I sound like a PBS telethon, and I hate those things, but this really is different in that it. I just think we're watching history change. Right. It's pivoting in a really weird way right now, and I love it. As an artist, I'm totally turned on by it.
Nice. Now, go ahead.
It's finally a time. Oh no! It's finally a time where people can actually have the games they want created. They complain, oh, we get another Call of Duty, another this, another that. I mean, through crowdsourcing. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. With all the changes with the Xbox One, that's completely because of fans doing that. That's because of gamers actually making a change, let alone the crowdsourcing movement where people can actually have products they want. And if they keep complaining about another Call of Duty, well, then go out there and help develop the products that you want to see out there. Help creativity. Don't worry about Activision and stuff. Help in the creative process of games and see what you want out there.
Yeah, give some to smaller developers is all I'm saying, and to indies, because we're obviously not the only one out there. There's probably, for every one of us, there's probably 100 other games that are ready to get made. If people will just pay attention to them and cough in $20 here and $20 there, that's how it works. And the publishers in the big industry is already trying to listen, and they're already trying to play catch up. And I got news for them. It's too late. It is too late. You've already awakened the sleeping dragon, and the players need not ever give that control back. They should always be in control of what kind of games get made. And developers like us are forced to listen to them and honor them and honor their payment by giving the kinds of things they want. And I look at the games out there and I'm just going, this is not what most people want. This is what people are settling for because it's all that's out there.
That is true. A lot of things right now. Really quickly, I just want to take a moment to let people know that our boy Kevan the Intern is managing our chat room right now. And if you have questions, please go to the chat room and ask them. While we do that, let me also let people know that we're going to be giving away stuff today. If you happen to back the Kickstarter at certain times for certain amounts. So as we go on throughout this, we will do that. Bobby, I think you're gonna make some pledges as well.
Yeah. Actually, I will be giving away a pair of Gunner's glasses that I have. That for someone who donates out there. To the Kickstarter.
Classy. I've got a copy of Remember Me for the Xbox 360.
Not only to be used with Call of Duty, but you can use it with indie games as well.
That's right. So, while we're waiting for questions from the audience, I'm going to play a video really quickly that you guys made for your Kickstarter. I don't think it really needs much of a setup. It shows off some of the awesomeness of the game. So we're going to go live to that right now. And there we go. Let's see. As far as I know, it's just playing the... it should be playing the audio from it.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay,
all right, so we got
Beak.
a couple...
I'm just glad we're still alive.
Yeah, me too. Now, let's get a look at the hull. Yeah, this does not look good.
I don't think our part insurance is gonna cover this. Our deductible is nuts too.
Let's go.
Beak. Look at that. What do you make of this guy?
Ooh, an omelet.
Ooh.
All right.
Give me a hand. Give me a hand.
Sit up. Sorry, I'm like multitasking. That's the one great thing about hosting this show is I get to do a bunch of stuff.
Hi, I'm Doug TenNapel, and I'm the original creator of Earthworm Jim.
Let's see what I mean.
We're here at
Pencil Test Studios.
Yeah, I'll cut it off in
my
a
partners
second
on those
here. I'm just
projects actually
something
taught
set
me
up.
how to animate, and they are Ed Schofield and Mike Dietz. These guys help me animate on every game I've worked on, and they're really kind of my secret weapon on Earthworm Jim and Neverhood. And we're getting back together to make a brand new game
go back
called Armikrog.
to the video back from it. And
over 20 years ago, we had the idea of creating
Yay! Go, 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 go. I forgot, but probably.
Oh, wow.
Wow. We don't know sync and sound. I'll do my mime thing.
Did you guys hear that?
I can hear you.
bless you, the internet heard that. So, all right, there we go.
Forget them. We'll just talk to each other.
Yeah, who cares about the internet? No, all right. The audio's going. We should be good. All right. So the next person to donate $60 or more to the Armikrog Kickstarter and leave a message on there talking about how awesome Week in Geek is will win a copy of Remember Me for the Xbox 360. So go there now, do it. You know you want to back it anyway, so you might as well just
and that includes already the rewards they get for backing it. You know, for $50. You know, the animated scrap heap and the documentary about the making of the game.
Oh, spoon!
You get all that and more. All right.
$50.
It's like we're crazy.
All right, and while that's going on, Kevin, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do.
All right. First question.
See, if the Kickstarter fails, is there
a
prospect you guys will get funded in other ways?
Is there a prospect you'll get funded in other ways?
Some of them are even our donors. People are genuinely worried, and that just shows how big of a fan they are of the game, that they get this knot in their gut at the thought that it won't exist if the Kickstarter doesn't fund. And, you know, Mike and Ed and I talked a lot about this before we chose, you know, how much money we needed to make the game and why we settled on 900 Rand. And 900 Rand was our walkaway amount of money that we thought we could make a game that would be equivalent to Neverhood in today's dollars. So even after Kickstarter, after you take away the 10% for Kickstarter and about 20% for fulfilling donors, we're still making the game for about $600,000. And we wouldn't take $1 less to even try it because it would just be a disaster. So we have to have that amount. So now the question is, what if that amount doesn't raise, which is, you know, to us, second place is a set of steak knives. You know, we're here for the A game, and we're turned on by the crowdfunding thing. We feel like that's going to give us the best game is through crowdfunding, not just the biggest game, but the best game. And an example would be if the Kickstarter failed and we had to go to private donors. We have to go out and hit the road then and go to investors and ask them, you know, will you give us 100 grand? Will you give us 200 grand? And what do you demand for that? Do you want, you know, what percentage of the back end or whatever? And they come in with their own dictates of what they want. like, oh, my son-in-law really likes first-person shooters, so can you have a first-person shooter level? And because they pay for the game, you have to say yes, because you're at the mercy of the wallet. So it just seems like a really bad idea to start talking about Plan B when our best hope is still in Plan A. And again, even if we went with outside investors, let's say, if on a Kickstarter fail, it would take at least a year just to sign the contract. So we couldn't even start the game for a year after where the Kickstarter funds. If Kickstarter money floods in at the end of this campaign, which is in a couple days, boom, we're instantly funded, and we're instantly in actual production of the game. But if we have to go out and sign contracts, we'll be delayed for a year. And we just say, screw that. We actually believe the donors are there. We're not going to kind of chicken shit our way out and say, well, some big daddy money publisher is going to come and save us. We don't want to be saved by them. And that includes our announcement on Wii U. If the game fails, we don't want to have to go to Nintendo and have them foot the bill for this game and be exclusive Wii U developers. We want this game to be made for as many people as possible. So while we're thrilled to work with Wii U, and we love the platform, we didn't go to Nintendo pulling a Daddy Warbucks move saying, and you'll fund the game, right? It's like, no, this is Kickstarter. The players decide, and it's in hands. If the players say no, then I would be willing to bet that there probably won't be a game.
Nice. And
has this ever come up for you in the past where, you know, people have wanted to change some aspects of the games and it hurt and affect the original concept of the game?
Oh yeah, every game. I mean, every Earthworm Jim and Neverhood, where I don't know if it hurt, but it just changes. There's cartridge limitations. There's a third of the game that we designed. We had to lock 2/3 of that game off. So even what you see is in Earthworm Jim 2, we had developed on paper at least double the number of levels, and you cut it back. So just reality dictates that stuff. And in the case even of Kickstarter, we knew that Neverhood had a huge penetration in Iran and Russia, which are not typical places where Western games have huge penetration. But back in the mid-90s, Neverhood was the #1 pirated CD in China, and they had the biggest distribution into Iran and Russia. So we have a huge Iranian and Russian audience. Well, suddenly we open up a Kickstarter, and all of them are coming in the comment section. It's coming out in Arabic and Persian and Russian, and we're going we knew that the audience was there, but now they're dictating some content, because maybe normally we'd say, oh, French, German, the usual translations, and maybe the next one that we go for would be, say, Japanese. But because we have such a larger percentage of Russians and Iranians, say, they would take a higher precedent. So they're technically changing the make of the game because they show up. If 50% of our donors are Wii U owners, then it just doesn't make sense for them to pay for 50% of the game and then not address their console at all, with the game, and say you're getting the exact same port as if you didn't donate. So there really are real market things that are changing things beyond just the usual executive that wants to come in and change the content.
All right, Kevan, I'm gonna send it back to Kevan the intern for more questions. Kevan, what do people want to know?
All right.
Hold on, just a sec. Come over here so they can hear you on the microphone.
Okay, we got this from Tux Capacitor. Earthworm Jim was not only my favorite game, but also my favorite TV show while it was on the air. Is there anything like that? Is there anything going on with that franchise currently?
Is there anything going on with the Earthworm Jim franchise currently? That is.
I get that question a lot. Is when are we going to see Neverhood ported to X or a new Earthworm Jim Cha-Cha, whatever? And I am all the time trying to negotiate and talk to EA and Interplay about the rights of those characters, Neverhood and Earthworm Jim. And I'll only work on those games, and it won't be Neverhood and it won't be Earthworm Jim without Pencil Test Studios and I working on the game. You'll get some crap 3D, Earthworm Jim 3D abomination instead of a real, authentic, killer platform game. So we won't settle for second best, and that means we need to be involved, and it means that the deal has to be structured a certain way that we have control of the game content. And in general, EA and Interplay aren't on board with that, and I don't criticize them for that at all, because it's their property and it's their title to do whatever they want. I'm only saying we're here to do nothing but make the title more popular, raise it from the dead, and make them a ton of money, and that doesn't seem to be what business they're in. So we legally can't, and we from early on, our lawyer flat out said, just you can't even whisper Neverhood in the game, Armikrog, or as they put it, if Clayman has a secret appearance in the game, then EA's lawyers will make a secret appearance at Pencil Test Studios.
Nice. So what's that like for you as a creator to like not be able to like go back and work on stuff that like you really put a lot of time and effort into making?
It's pretty normal for me. It's really what just about every creator who ever had anything made had to go through. Not like Matt Groening on Simpsons, or people who lucked out and kind of got a chunk of the ownership, or Spielberg or Lucas with Star Wars. Most of us, the cost of admission for getting our characters made is you have to sell the entire character wholesale to the people funding the game, and they control it from that point on. But I'll tell you one thing that is true about Armikrog that makes me very excited is, if Armikrog funds through Kickstarter, no one can ever tell us that we can't do a game again. So we can do as many sequels, spin-offs, develop all that stuff, and I actually think it will rattle the cages at EA and Interplay a little bit, so that they have to take our game company a little more serious and say, yeah, let's let them do an Earthworm Jim, a real Earthworm Jim platform game, or a real Neverhood sequel, because they're looking at our crowdfunding audience that now we access directly, and I just think it's another reason why they'd be crazy not to do it. But that's the first thing I'm doing if Armikrog funds, and going back to their lawyers again and saying, how about now? The audience is there. Let's make this game.
Nice. Now let's talk about Armikrog a little bit. So this isn't the first time that you've done a claymation game, but what is it about claymation that appeals to you so much, just as a medium? Especially, it's so rare in video games, mostly because I don't know if that's because it's so time consuming, or people just don't like think about it, because like nowadays it's all about like modern super graphical engines and stuff. But yeah,
sure,
but why claymation?
Good question, Bobby. It really is that video games is a relatively late artistic medium to develop. So it's just been in the last couple of decades, and it didn't benefit from many of the other art mediums that had more mature, wise people running it, or seasoned artists going into it. Video games was always a young medium. So in the mid-90s, I was running a company at 27 years old, a multi-million-dollar company. I didn't go to business school. I was an art major. And that was purely and I'm telling you, that's not necessarily a good thing. I know everyone's going like, cool, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. And it's like the lunatics have taken, and cokeheads have taken over the asylum, and you get a bunch of lunatic cokehead game sequels, and really kind of chicken amounts of vision, like they won't think big, and it's always just seduced by tech, where it's like, how many polygons can we put on, and look at our textures, and we're going to do rape in this game, and rape gore clowns. It's very it's just not. I just don't feel like the medium's respected by many of the people funding it and working it. And I always see video games as potentially being a fine art medium, just like painting, or film, or sculpture, or graphic novels, or whatever or ballet. I just think it's been it's been artificially kind of rammed through this little tunnel, and you're not allowed to look right or left. You may only go straight. They're dictating all this content. Why the hell not puppet animation in games? Why the hell not puppets? Or just name it. I mean, musical notes. I don't even care if we end up making video game consoles eventually of biological forms and bacteria. I mean, that will be life can be the medium in art. And you just have people with no vision, because all they can see is the last game they made that made them, $20 million to buy their Lamborghini, and they just want to do that again. And they don't care at what cost. So just slap a number 2 on it, put higher end graphics on it, and I just think it's inhuman. It tells me that they don't really care about their audience. They don't love their audience. Whereas we actually love our gamers so much that we're lovers of animation with them. And we're just like, oh, you love puppet animation? So do we. In fact, after Mike Dietz is done animating a shot, guess what happens? He goes, guys, I got another one done. And we all run into his room, and he goes, watch this, and he hits play. And I've actually watched his animation before, and I was so stunned at the talent and imagery that I started crying. I don't think you get that on Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't know. You get dogs in Call of Duty, apparently. That's what you get.
Yeah.
That's.
Oh, we have a clay dog in Armikrog too. He just doesn't eviscerate brown people.
At E3 this year, the thing that impressed me the most was a new innovation in gaming with the Oculus Rift. That none of the next-gen consoles really did that much for me, because I said it's just the same old. Where's something new, something different, to make me feel like the first time you played a game again. I mean, as much as I love Nintendo, we're still seeing Mario over and over again. I mean, you want to see something, innovation, and I feel it is coming from Kickstarter.
And I always bet on Nintendo, and I keep thinking they're going to really blow the lid off of things, and then they don't. Or I thought Microsoft coming in with Xbox was really going to empower indie developers, and right now indie developers have only found any kind of traction on little crappy iPhone games. Like, that's the only thing that they can really, the kind of budgets they can raise, so they can't think big, and they can't think creative, and they can't think epic. And that really is where things are changing, Bobby, like you said. It is Kickstarter and crowdfunding, so that players are circumventing the people problem in games.
Yes. Now, speaking of like big gaming companies and independent developers, since PlayStation 4's announcement, there's been a very strong emphasis on indie developers and helping them get their projects onto PS4.
Excuse me.
No worries. So has that been something you guys have considered, or has Sony approached you at all since the start of your Kickstarter?
Sony has not approached us, but we're always open to do work with anybody. We'll work with Nintendo, we'll work with Sony. But my condition is, I can come into the games world or I can leave it. And my condition with Nintendo and PlayStation is they cannot dictate content either to the audience or to us, the developers. So I'm just saying, I want that stranglehold of control and creative liberty to be held by the players and the developers only. And if you want to throw money at us to help empower us, and you believe in our vision, then we'll give you a better return for your money than you will if you go to someone else. But in general, when you're a company like, and I don't want to cast any kind of anger or anything at PlayStation or in Sony or Nintendo or Microsoft, but when you're in a position of control, when you own a system, you don't generally get there by giving away control and giving away power. What they've learned is that you hoard all this power and you put a death grip on it and you hold on to it. If anything, you exploit your developers and force them to pay crazy, prices like $12 on a compact disc or on a DVD or whatever, and they're punishing everyone up and down the line because they have the control. It's almost like a king and a throne where we're subjects, and what we're proposing is America. We're proposing a democracy where the people, and I hope people don't laugh at me too hard about this, but where the people control who they elect to put in charge of them. And it's just a different model. So I'm really doubling down and really saying, rah, let's stick to this model. This model fails, and too many Kickstarter games fail. If they fail, then all of the power structures that already exist are thrilled with that. They want that to happen because it's a threat to their power. And it's not that I want power. It's I want to be able to make an Armikrog. And Armikrog would be laughed out of any boardroom if we walked into it before the Kickstarter campaign. Now, afterwards, with all the money we've already raised and all the donors that have showed up, yeah, they'd take us more seriously. But then it just seems kind of mean that we went to a bunch of Kickstarter donors and they gave us a bunch of money and they showed up with their little tick on the 14,000 donors. And then the thing failed, and we took their credibility and went to Sony and said, fund the game. And they said, yeah. And now we're going to burn all those people, right? We're going to charge them double at retail. We're not going to listen to what they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. It's like,
it's almost like
I'm a Kickstarter fan, and if Kickstarter thing dies, I'm really not, I don't want to look at having to start over at ground zero.
Like
it's not what I'm about.
It's almost like right now it's like people will tell you what you like, and you feel like you're not given the option. And here, Kickstarter really gives people the chance to be like, this is what I like, this is what I want to see, and since you guys aren't going to do this, I'm going to go directly to the person making it so that I can get it done, which is the way it should be, honestly. I really...
exactly.
Especially when it comes to creative projects.
It's time has come.
Yes.
I don't know if you know about this about Mike and Ed, but Mike and Ed are no-nonsense guys. Like, we do not dick around with salesmanship and try to manipulate people through their emotions and say, fund Kickstarter, just whatever we do, we're not trying to manipulate them. We're just coming to them. It's all going to tell them the truth. This is our budget. This is the reality of the industry. This is what we can and can't do, at any given time. We're not here to manipulate people. We really respect them, and we treat them with a level of respect that I don't think publishers have ever treated them with. So I think we want to keep earning their trust, and we want to turn it around with more and more correct actions.
All right.
And we really take their donations seriously, and we're not going to squander it. We don't squander their respect or their loyalty. I just think it's really a shitty thing to do when someone gives you $1. They're our employers.
All right.
And they're awesome.
All right. Well, speaking of your employers and funding, Bobby, you ready to give away some gunner glasses?
Yeah.
All right.
Totally down.
All right.
You pick the rules. I got the glasses.
All right. Next person to donate $40 or more to the Kickstarter and write something about how sexy Bobby Venom is in the comment section of the Kickstarter will win. We'll win the next prize. Be sure to include your Twitch handle there, so we can DM you on Twitch, so we can get your game out to you and get your gunner glasses out to you, and then I'll give away something awesome. And you know what? Next person to donate $20 or more and talk about how awesome I am in a Kickstarter comment and leave their Twitch handle, I will draw you a picture of an animal of your choosing.
Hold on, I'm doing the Kickstarter and talking awesome about Blake right now.
All right, you're gonna put $20 in just to get
just to get your drawing.
Just to get my drawing. Nice. It's worth it. It's totally
Doug,
worth it.
I have a question. I have a question for you. You've talked a lot about integrity, right? And you've also, you're not a noob to this entire industry. You've been in the gaming industry. You've been in animation. You've dealt with Hollywood. And where do you feel like the most integrity has lied in there? I know it's all the industries are different, but who's been the easiest to deal with? You've had your work on Nickelodeon. I believe you've talked to Hollywood producers about getting some of your comics turned into films. Like, what industry has been the easiest for you to work in?
I've sold 6 of my comics into movies now. Not that the movies are getting made, but Sam Raimi's bought them, and Fox has bought them, Disney and all those guys. That is by far the hardest medium to work in. So that's the one that I I probably make the most money at, but enjoy the least. And then actually probably making the comics is probably my favorite medium, and it's only for the sole reason that I'm empowered to do whatever I want. And so because I do the whole thing by myself, no one's there to tell me no. And then up until Kickstarter, games were the same kind of thing. You know, I always say I didn't leave games, games left me. And because we were doing just fine in the 90s and having a blast, and then just the whole industry just, you know, I was just really done with it. I didn't feel like it was a kind place that treated my fellow workers with respect or dignity. You know, things like just doing dog and pony shows for E3 and empty dog and pony shows to go back to try and pretend like you hit an alpha or a beta to a publisher was just really, the ethics of it just really made me sick. And that was the way the entire industry worked. And people would tell me, they would just say, Doug, that's the way it works, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to represent, like this game, this kludge, this level is finished, and it obviously isn't. It's buggy and broken and crashed. We're going to fake it. So you spend all this time faking a level like it works, when really you should be spending the time really making it work, and instead you're just making this fake thing. Like, that I don't respect at all. The Kickstarter version of Armikrog represents I think the very best of these mediums, because it's a way that I can get a really big budget to do something that's going to fund a huge team of people. And we don't have to fake anything for anyone. You know, as we sell beta representations of our game, and they can go online and look at the beta version of it, you know, we're going to be honest with them. This is what it really plays like. This is what it really looks like. We can't say, oh, we have to fool our donors and really give them something that's not true or something, or even like fake in, you know, content for the Wii U that uses the gamepad that really would never use that gamepad. It's like we look at it and go, how do we really respect this gamepad and really use it in the game? It's just we're just you know, we like to sleep at night in our own skin. And Mike and Ed are very good men, full of integrity. I don't think I've met other men with more integrity in this entire business. So I know when I go in to make a game with them, these guys are going to pour it on all day, all night, because of the love of the game and the audience and what we're doing. They really...
Hello?
There's just... You just won't come anywhere near it.
Excellent. All right.
Have you guys already made the steps towards potentially bringing it to Wii U? Oh, I mean, getting dev units and stuff?
No, not dev units.
Okay.
I mean, that's way jumping out of the project, because it doesn't fund.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even.
Because I heard, I mean, as far as like you know, indie developers, that's a hard thing to get. Those dev units cost a lot of money. People don't understand that.
Yeah, well, they fast-tracked us as developers, and I don't see us getting dev units as being a problem. But put it this way, they're giving us the royal treatment because they really love Armikrog. And when they said that they really loved Armikrog, we knew that we really loved them and loved them as a company, and just thought, if these guys want to get on board and make it bigger and better, then anyone who likes us, we like them back. They're not like me as a person, but like the project. If you like the project, then you turn us on. And so Nintendo likes the project as a company. That turns me on.
All right. Well, we got a ton of questions from the audience now, so I'm going to turn my mic over to Kevan, the intern, and let him get some of these questions in for us. So scoot on in here, handsome Kevan, and I'll let you take over for a little bit and say hi to everybody.
All right.
Say hi.
All right, what's up, guys? All right, so one of the
Hey, Kevan.
Hey. So one of the questions was, do you think there is a chance EA might get interested in the Neverhood again if Armikrog is a success?
Yeah, I already answered that, and it's not. I know there's a chance. I don't know for sure what will happen. No one can predict the future, but it's our best shot right now at a Neverhood sequel is for Armikrog to succeed, and our best shot at probably never getting the power to do that again is probably if Armikrog fails. So it's not just Armikrog that's at stake. It's probably 5 games that are at stake. And not just for us, but for many other game developers around the industry. They're all watching this.
Oh, man. Another one is, I've been a fan of your work from the beginning, even though I was 4 years old. What gave you the idea for the Neverhood?
That is a near impossible question to ask. I've just always been again, I'm going to start crying if I go back to what makes me tick as an artist, but I can't answer.
Fair enough. Another question is, but what is shown so far, Armikrog seems very similar to the Neverhood. That's great, but part of what made the Neverhood so special is that its innovation and imagination behind it. A game even close to the Neverhood will be amazing, but will you try to do anything new instead of reproducing the same game?
Oh yeah, yeah. We don't repeat ourselves, so we're doing things in that genre, but we wouldn't be able to sleep with ourselves if we just said we're just going to ape and fool a bunch of people into getting, a Neverhood thing is going to be more of the same. I have this is some of how I do my game design for Armikrog, and it's the best example of what's different about Armikrog and the Neverhood. This is a cardboard model of actual game design. Of course, it's falling apart now, but you can see these rooms that pivot in and out from each other, and you can swivel them in and out to create multiple levels. Armikrog has not only the normal profile puzzle work in Neverhood, but there's towers where you actually play and you turn and move the world. So there's a miniature map room that you can access in first-person perspective, and you can go up and you can grab a room and turn it on a track, and it moves the real world outside of you. Mm-hmm. So that your puzzle and forward progress comes from manipulating the rooms in these towers to line them up, and there's all these funky little elevators and things that work. And this is just a crude model of, this isn't the design or the shape of whatever it needs to look beautiful. But that's one tower. Mm-hmm. And then here's another example. This one's just much more unruly, but I mean, look at this thing.
Good God.
These are these two giant golems that you push that turn the tower for you, so it pivots like this. Wow. And there's a giant map room, and this has a giant. This bag represents a giant Portuguese man of war jellyfish up in the roof. And then there's these cool arms that you can, by manipulating this building. It's so hard to show. I'm sorry,
no, this is awesome.
No, yeah, this is
epic.
But it is epic because look, this is the most bitchin' thing I ever came up with. This is the little map room right here that you're in.
Right.
And this whole room pivots and moves, and you can take the whole lid off and see inside. There's ladders in there.
Holy crap,
dude!
Yeah, it's freaking bizarre. So you move this whole other tower this way. Mm-hmm. You can't see it, but I'm bringing in this arm. Oh man, I wish I could there. I'm bringing this arm into shot, and it's hard to see. but see this arm?
Yeah.
When you move it on the map room, a real arm moves out in the real world. Okay.
Okay.
And look what's on the end of this pipe cleaner. Okay. It doesn't look like much, right? But what it represents is more miniature map room that comes into the roof here and plugs into this map that you were just using, and now and it connects and clicks in, and so it puts more tower on your first-person tower to play with.
Holy moly!
So that now you can actually manipulate even more towers, so you're not only connecting giant buildings, but you're connecting miniature maps to bring this giant arm into the room with you, and then it drops a piece of map on top of your map to move more puzzle pieces. It's just a blast of a game. And then are you ready for this? This is just really screwed up, and I just thought it was so funny.
I don't think I'm ready, but go.
So you're in the map room, right? And you look in your map room, there's a little window on the room that you're actually in.
Right.
And if you look in that room, you're in there, moving a map room. And then if you go out of that room, it's a map room, and you go out to the window that's over your back, and you look out, and you go out to the window, you're standing looking out another window in another map room. So Armikrog is this giant, it's a world manipulating puzzle where you're, by moving miniatures, you're moving yourself and a giant sized version of you outside.
It's not.
Freaking blow your mind.
Map Inception. Boom.
So here's my sketchbook where I do some of the puzzle work. You know, I do it all on paper first before I build it because it's crazy to build like that. But you'll see. I don't know if there's any good. I'm trying not to give away any spoilers here. But there's cool. These are my monsters, and then here's more monsters.
Aww.
And then here's Howard Van Tall. He's a big, tall guy, and there's a little tiny guy running around on his feet. And you take these pills to get map information exposed to you. And then here's a little baby that you find that goes, your chest is the inventory.
Right.
So you stick them inside your inventory. You have to keep this baby alive, who you find out is the center of the universe. And then this is the baby's ghost dad, who's being voiced by Scott Kurtz of PvP. Here's more puzzle work.
This is amazing.
So I've always really liked your art style a lot, and it was like a big influence on me growing up. I must have drawn Earthworm Jim like at least 100 times as a kid.
Oh, thanks. Okay, look at this. This is the baby's mother. This is voiced by Veronica Belmont.
Mm-hmm.
Will you come with us? And Tommy Knott goes, score! Okay.
So, like, who were your, like, as far as, like, your artistic style, who were your influences as you developed as an artist?
You know, my artistic style is, like, I'm a mutt. You know, I like Milt Kahl from The Nine Old Men. I like Jim Henson, the Muppets. They're big heroes of mine. Ray Harryhausen, Johnny Cash, just kind of men from the previous generation who they just thought big. They're just huge minds. Art Clokey, who did Gumby, is obviously that's one of the first things I ever saw. And I just said, puppet animation and clay animation just casts such a spell on me. I remember asking my mom, when I first saw Rudolph at 5 years old, I said, how is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer moving? And she didn't know anything about animation. And she just goes, oh, they're puppets. I go, but how do you make a puppet move? I mean, there's no strings, and I could tell I didn't understand animation. So just it casts such a powerful spell that anyone who's in kind of that world of making magic, Tim Schafer's another one that I think is a really powerful force on that end. The musician Terry Taylor that we use is a spell weaver. You know, he just writes a song and he can make you feel something, and that's just amazing to me.
Yes.
So
you mentioned a little bit about the voice cast that you have. Did you approach these voice actors, or did they come in? Nice, because you've got quite the impressive list. Let's see. So who is playing who in your game, or have you announced who?
Veronica Belmont is this motherly type whose soul gets cast into this giant ass-kicking robot that has long. Let me see if I can find a picture of her because it's just so. I love this drawing if I can find it. These are all bad drawings I've got. Here. It's like she's like 13 stories tall. So when girls ask, are there any female characters? The biggest ass-kicking female characters are in this game. Veronica Belmont is she's the mother of this child, and she's super overprotective and will kick your ass if you damage her. And the child is this little baby named P that Tommy Knott ends up taking care of. And so it wakes up his paternal instinct to where he's willing to die for this baby. And the baby is a little girl named P who is the center of the universe, and the bad guy wants her because she has the ability, if she turns wrong, to destroy everything. So it's kind of about this playboy named Tommyknot, who's kind of this, this drunk astronaut who hangs out with his drinking buddy Dog, and they think it's all screwing around and funny, and then they end up getting kind of inserted in this planet where everything, not only in their universe but in our human universe, is going to get dismantled if Tommyknot fails his mission.
Damn. Dude, it sounds just a little game. I also want to add your female character, fully clothed, fully armored.
That's right.
That's right.
No big implants.
Nothing. Yeah.
No. Sorry, Japan. No panties showing.
Yeah.
No, she's just. I really love her as the character, is a hero of mine. Okay, so going back to the voice talent, I'm real good friends with Mike Nelson. We're in a reading group where we read G.K. Chesterton at my house every weekend and smoke cigars, whiskey.
That sounds classy.
You don't know who G.K. Chesterton is because they just don't talk about him in college anymore. But he's an author from 100 years ago who is probably the greatest thinker I've ever read. And he influenced C.S. Lewis to become a Christian. He influenced Tolkien. He influenced Orson Welles. He influenced Hitchcock. You'll never find Ian Fleming. You'll never find one central character in the last century who's influenced more people's content than H.G. Wells. Barry, the guy that wrote Peter Pan, he's influenced H.G. Wells, Kipling. And what I like about him is he's this hardcore Christian, and his best friend that he would defend to the death was the atheist liberal George Bernard Shaw. And they would go out on professional debate tours. And when you read the debates, these guys are the smartest men alive, and they're both taking shots at each other, but you can tell there's this love for each other as a friend that's there first. It's very just developed and wonderful, and I just think the whole world could learn from that, from their friendship. So anyways, Mike Nelson and I, we also have an affinity for sardines. So we're sardine fanatics, and we share. I can show you on my phone right now. Daily, he's sending me photos of cans of sardine that he's bragging about that he's collected, and I compare them with mine that I collect.
So you guys have.
So we're sardine.
You guys have sardine collections.
Yeah. So just because he's my friend didn't mean he was going to do the voice in the game. We had him do a quick reading test, and I showed it to Mike and Ed and say, "What do you think of this?" And they said, because when you can never imagine a voice stuck on a character until you see it. And we all looked at it together and just said, "Oh, of course, it's working." And then I've worked with Rob Paulson because I come out of animation. He worked with me on Nickelodeon's on Cat Scratch, which I created. And so he's a good friend of mine. And so those guys, and John Heater was in my show Sock Baby that we shot in my backyard swimming pool. So John Heater is a buddy of mine. And I just called those guys right away and just said, boom, boom, boom. They said, yes, yes, yes. And Scott Kurtz is another buddy of mine who does webcomics.
Nice.
And then the tough one to crack was going to be Veronica Belmont. And I said, I don't have any access to her, but Mike Nelson was good friends. I go, do you mind asking her? And just, apologize to her, to be working with me, the biggest jerk in the world, but can she please do a voice for us? Because we have this character that needs to kind of be serious but perky. And he just instantly thought, he goes, it's got to be Veronica Belmont. And he called her, and she said yes. And I was just I'm just such a huge fan, was so thrilled that Mike Nelson and John Heater and Scott Kurtz and, Rob Paulson, big deal. I'm like, Veronica Belmont, That was the missing piece that I didn't know we could get.
That's awesome. So is that the entire voice cast? Or are you guys...
I'm sure we'll be filling in. I always do voices on my own games. I don't like it, but I'm just saying. Or if I needed a filler, I'm sure Rob Paulson could do about 8,000. So, yeah, that's the big names that I might need one more bad guy, and I have a guy in mind, a celebrity guy that I know, but I'm not going to tap him until I know for sure that character.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm flattered. I'll do it. It's all right.
I wanted it to be a surprise, and now you pull everything. So,
Damn it.
I'm writing you out of my will, and I'm going with
That's
Bobby.
celebrity.
Bobby Venom. Or Kevan the intern.
Kevin
You want a job?
No. No. Bobby, curse you.
Venom get.
All right. So we got even more questions.
You
Bobby, you're breaking up there.
got questions too.
Bobby, you just de-rezzed. You're destroyed. I'm gonna.
Question. Hear me?
All right, now we can hear you. All right, go ahead, Bobby.
Gaming. Like, I know you worked on Jurassic Park. You worked on a few things before. Like,
Bobby's cutting out here.
how did you transition?
All right, forget your question, Bobby. We're giving it back to Kevan the intern here. Kevin's waiting patiently. He's popping in.
Oh, Lord.
His way over here.
All right. So, this question is, why did you decide to shelve the first-person perspective in Armikrog? Because the process of creating it was complicated?
No, that's a good question. Why did we can the first-person part of that we used in the Neverhood? Those were, if you don't remember, they were first-person canned cinemas of you walking through a world.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how submersive you feel when you're walking through a world, but it just, even then, it felt pretty canned and hard to pull off. So it was appropriate for that game. That was one of the first things that we removed from this game. I just said, I don't see how we could get away with doing that again. I mean, that was just, it's just so clunky and awkward that if we did do first person in the game, we're trying to avoid the first person, locomotion, just because I hate first person shooters, and I don't hate them. I don't want to be a part of that point of view in this game. I really don't want to do a first person 3D perspective. But if enough puzzles justified it, then we would have to work that into the engine. So instead, you're just going to get a first-person view of the puzzle when you're in that one map room and any puzzle you're working on, but no real first-person locomotion. I just didn't,
It was
There's certain things that we had to spend our money on and spend our time on, and that was one of them that had to go.
Yeah, you didn't want to be an oversaturated market, right?
All right, next question.
All right. The Neverhood had a very strong, non-vocal, otherworldly vibe to the sound design. What is the motivation behind the big push for well-known voice actors in Armikrog?
Well, I'd have gotten well-known voices in the Neverhood if I knew any. So at the time, I had to do all my own voices, and Mark Lorenzen did Willie Trombone. And the game, everyone says it's vocalist, but it's not. I mean, Willie's trombone, you can't shut him up. That's all he does is talk. And Hoborg talks, and I do Clog, and he talks. They're always doing these soliloquies and things. So it's just Clayman as a mute. And it just made sense for him for that story because he was a newly created being. That he kind of was this, kind of like Harpo, walk around and we were very into physical actors. So we were studying Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin to really get just his posing and the way that he moved out. So it just seemed appropriate for that, and that was one of the first conversations we had. And there was a bit of a difference between myself and Mike and Ed, because Mike and Ed were a little more leaning toward the silent character, and I said, that's just copying Neverhood. And I'm here to do a game in that genre. I'm not here to have every decision dictated by that game because it worked or I didn't think it would work. It just made a lot of sense. This was a very secular astronaut character. Tommy Knott is very worldly. His buddy Beak is a real smartass, so they needed voices. They really needed voices. Now, they're not going to talk through the whole game. Much of the puzzle work will be a lot like Neverhood, where they're going to be standing there looking at the wall while you decide what they do with your clicker, and you'll be listening to Terry Taylor music and listening to sound effects. So I don't see them walking and jibber-jabbering the whole thing, and I didn't see a puzzle game where it was based on talking like, say, Full Throttle, where you're clicking on a response or something. It's not that form of puzzle solving either. So it's really barely more talking in the game. Just the character had to have a voice. That was appropriate. And then because I had access to all these friends that I knew would do great voices, I said, I'd rather have them do all the voices than me do all the voices. I really I don't need to do all the voices in my own game.
Gotcha.
Next question, Mr. Kevan.
All right, next question. Have you tried pitching any games to publishing companies recently?
I have not. I think my last game pitch was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Did I lose
We
something?
lost Bobby.
Nope.
Don't worry, keep
No,
going.
you keep going.
So yeah, it really. I mean, Mike and Ed and I have done some iPad development on a bunch of projects. So we do animation, we do some game design and pitch those things, and I don't even know what happens to them, you know, half the time. So there's a lot of, you know, phone gaming and small stuff like that. And there's always the temptation to go back in, and everyone's talking about a sequel or, you know, yet a fourth relaunch of a digital Earthworm Jim of the exact same game. And that is not what made Earthworm Jim, damn it. When we made Earthworm Jim, we sat in a room and said, we have nothing, let's make something. And we made Earthworm Jim. We didn't sit there and say, let's copy ourselves. And then after Earthworm Jim, everyone jumped out. We just want another platform game. And we went off and made the Neverhood. And we lost a ton of our audience, like a chunk of our audience said, we don't play point-and-click adventure games. And we said, well, we don't just go around just copying ourselves. So we sit in a room and go, what can we create? And so Mike Dietz did the ultimate no-no to me. He called me on the phone and said, hey, Doug, what would you make if you made another clay-animated point-and-click adventure game? And within 24 hours, I had most of the concept work on Armikrog done. So he opened the door, and I just ran through it. And I like doubling down on that spirit. And I don't like anyone who tells me no. I just don't. I've always been an artist, and I've always created every day of my life since I can remember. I created 1,000 Earthworm Jims before Earthworm Jim ever came out. And I just had this lucky little door open for me that I ran through. And then another lucky little door opened on Skull Monkeys that I ran through. And Kickstarter is just another lucky door that I'm running through, and there haven't been other lucky doors in the last 15 years for me to run through. So here's a door. Here we go.
Throw all caution to the wind.
All right, we got Bobby back.
Yay. All right. See, next question. Hi, Doug. Greetings from Argentina. How did you get Terry S. Taylor to make the songs again? I sing Neverhood songs all the time.
I love it. Well, we're fellow fans of Terry Taylor, and I'm happy that he's reached Argentina because he deserves to, because he's awesome. He's another guy that I just think is a brilliant musician. I actually tried getting him to do the music on Earthworm Jim, but that's another example of the powers that be dictating content. We decided to work with Tommy Tallarico instead, and I really made a push for Terry, and Tommy did a great job, so I have no complaints. But Terry's a good buddy of mine, and he's done just a ton of albums, and when Neverhood came around, I go, I know who's going to do the music, and Terry had never written any music like what you hear in the Neverhood, mind you. That was just a whole new invention by Terry. His other stuff was like 80s Bowie, Duran Duran, funky, you know, They Might Be Giants pop, you know, and I just said, look, I really have kind of this vision. It needs to feel like this game came from a different era, like it came from the early 1900s with this kind of klezmer, junk band alley sound. And he got his buddies and go, yeah, okay, you're going to do a brush, and we're going to try and do as many real instruments as we can. And so when it came time to do this game, you know, of all the things that we threw out from Neverhood, the one that we never considered throwing out was Terry Taylor doing the music. And I just said, Terry, you ready to do another? He said, if you get funding, you better believe it. So Terry's another guy that needs a job. And like all the puppet animators that we're going to hire, you know, they're out bagging groceries right now. They're not sitting around working on the other stop-motion video game being made. If it's not ours, it ain't going to happen. So we ended up by having Terry do the music for Neverhood. It was one of the most popular things he ever did. And probably the part of the game that we had the least to do with that was probably one of the most favorite parts of that whole game. So how do I take credit for that?
Gotcha. All right. Hold on. Next question. If Clayman ever met Earthworm Jim, how would Jim react? Also, keep up the amazing work, Doug. I will buy whatever you throw at me.
Thank you. I'm touched by that. I don't know how they would interact. Believe it or not, I've never even thought of that. I've even drawn them together, but I've never actually thought how those two kids would interact because they're from such different worlds. There's no way they'd ever cross. So I think Earthworm Jim would probably say something really dumb about him being made of clay and maybe like scrape a part of his face off and start going, look, I made a little clay dog out of your face. I don't know, something like that.
Oh God! Speaking of dogs, will Beck the dog play a big role in the gameplay?
Absolutely, yeah. Beak he should be in most of the rooms that you're with, and that he just kind of is AI that follows you along. And I'm still developing the system for it, but if you click on him with your arrow, it will disengage your clicking on Tommyknot, and then you can say point. Like if you give him a winged power-up where he can fly, you could click on Beak, and you could click on an upper area that you can't normally reach, and you can fly up there under his control. And then you can click back on your character to reverse the clutch effect and go back to your main character. So you feed, there's a lot of dog-only power-ups where you feed them to Beak that he can handle because his body has a higher resistance to poison than yours does, and all these power-ups are they're kind of poisonous, but he has a high resistance, so you can tend to use them on him, and even that you can't use on yourself or on a giant robot. So there's that, and then there's also, we had the Wii U thing where you pick him up and you look in his butt and you can see out his eyes and use him as a visor, so you can see through him and his eyes that you look into the afterlife. So and that's the Wii U screen. So when you put the Wii U screen up to your screen, you're looking through it at the screen. It's like that's like through Beak's visor, you can see ghosts and things will appear and come and talk to you.
Nice. Now, I think it's time to do another giveaway. What do you think, Bobby Venom?
I say yes. Let's go with the giveaway. What do you have in mind, Blake?
Let's see.
What do you have?
What
do you have out of your bag?
I got this Ouya beer cozy right here. Oh yeah. I'll tell you what.
That was the tease. I got this Ouya beer cozy.
I'll tell you what.
When you drink, you'll go, ooh, yeah.
And I've also got this Directive 51 survival kit. This is from Ubisoft's new upcoming MMORPG. It has a face mask. It's also got, this is pretty cool, an emergency fire starter.
Use that.
Yeah, it's something actually useful that you can use to survive.
I'm making one of those for Armikrog.
It's got a bunch of crazy stuff in it. These things are both from E3. So the next person to donate $50 or more to the Kickstarter and leave a message telling me why Doug rocks so much, as well as you should probably leave your Twitch handle as well so we can get a hold of you. Next person to donate $50 or more gets not only the beer cozy, but the survival kit, plus whatever Kickstarter goal fundings that you get at that level. So that's what I'm gonna throw.
Should we open the comments up that they can fund it and they can also say how much they hate me? You might get a good donation. If it's a well-placed, pithy insult, we'll go for that too.
It's got to be really catty though. The claw's got to be out.
It's got to be out. I'm 6'8". There's a lot to make fun of.
Wow. To think you could have been playing basketball, but you got into gaming.
It just goes on and on forever.
So, Doug, I have a question for you, and my camera's actually working now. Like, you've worked... Oh, Lord. Wow.
Say it, Bobby, quickly.
Wow.
Go, quick, Bobby.
Yeah, well, you've been in the gaming world for a long time now, and you started off in animation. I mean, you worked all the way back on one of my favorite animated TV shows, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Thank you. That's one of the first animation things I ever did.
How did you get into gaming? Was it something that you desired to do for a while? Like, how did you transition from animation, being inspired by Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer,
Mm-hmm.
turning into games.
Again, that's just another lucky door that never should have happened. I was in San Diego working on Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and again, it was lucky that I got to do Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I had no business being a professional animator. I was pretty much self-taught and always learning kind of on the job how to be better and better and better. It wasn't until I met Mike and Ed that they really put me through the ringer and turned me into a real animator. But I was working in San Diego, and my job and I just got married right around 91, and my job had dried up at that animation gig, and I was, my wife and I were in a one-bedroom apartment about to lose it, and I just said, I have to get work somehow, and I was trying to, this is at a time when I couldn't even get a job as a waiter. Like, I was going around like, I'll be a waiter. I ended up being a busboy, and this is me, a grown man, married, at 23, just going, well, this is the life of the artist, and this is the way it's going to be. Is here comes poverty time. And a couple of my friends that had gotten off of that Attack of the Tomatoes game, they said, we're animating at a video game company. I said, what? Like, I've always been a gamer. Like, I loved Atari 2600, and I would ride my bike to the Pizza Hut 2 miles into Turlock and play Pac-Man, put my quarters in Pac-Man. I was so good at it, I could play all day on a quarter. And then I said, can I get a job? And they were like, no way in hell, because the jobs were so few and far between. And I just went and begged my way into Blue Sky, and they weren't hiring, but they liked my portfolio, and the guy that was actually doing the interviews, believe it or not, was a Christian. And it's one of the few times that being a Christian worked in my favor in this industry. So he said, yeah, brother, I like what you're about. I like your drawing style. I don't know if we have anything for you, but come back in a couple weeks. And I ended up doing some freelance work for Dave Warhol back in the day, he's a real early video game guy, just a legend. I think he worked on Loom for LucasArts, and he was just a great, hippie, awesome guy, really kind to me. Gave me 256 or whatever it was we were drawing on, and gave me Deluxe Animator for the first time, and told me, these are the size of your sprites. They have to be 8 pixels tall, and you have to give us a walk cycle in 3 frames. And my work was better than any of the other contractors they were working with. So he just kept giving me work. And I remembered I made 12 grand that year, and that was the most money I'd ever seen. And it actually ended up being the money that my wife and I used to put a down payment on a house a couple of years later. And then Blue Sky hired me. And I remember getting hired on for I think it was $22K a year. And then every 6 months, my salary doubled, until a year and a half later, Virgin Games offered me a job for $52K, and 4 months later, Shiny brought me on at $80K. So it's within 3 years' time, I went from complete poverty to being what was considered practically a veteran in the gaming industry and running my own company. So, I can't explain. A lot of people ask, how did you get in, thinking, I want to do whatever you did. And I just say, you can't follow my path. You have to find your own path. And everyone I know, Mike Dietz and Ed Schofield, they also made their own path into games, and Dave Perry made his own path, and everyone just kind of makes their way in. You can't follow us. You can have the same goal as us to work in games, but you have to kind of crack your own thing. What's neat about these days is, more so than ever, you have more control of your destiny in being able to probably put your own team together. Whereas when we were doing it, that was just, it was almost unheard of. And what Dave Perry did with Shiny, was probably practically illegal. It was unheard of. And just a real lucky thing that we pulled off. So,
dude, that is awesome. All right, we have about 10 more questions from the audience, I think. Something based like how many?
I'll fire through.
All right. And then Bobby, do you got anything you want to?
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
I just got to say thank you, Doug. That was actually a very heartfelt story. really appreciate you doing that.
Oh, cool. Thanks,
All
Bobby.
right, so I'm handing the headphones back over to Kevin. Bobby, do you got anything else you'd like to throw in for a donation?
I don't know.
Chest hair.
My girlfriend would be pissed off if I gave the cat away.
Let's see.
I don't know. I think that was the
How
only
about
thing I have
how about
right now.
a drawing of Captain America by Bobby Venom?
You know what? If I can find it, I'll find something Captain America related. I have a Captain America picture that I was drawn in a hippie commune for me. If I could find that, it was on my birthday. I will send it. It was some guy. I was in a hippie commune and I traded some emergency.
Next person.
It smells like patchouli.
Vitamin stuff for a Captain America drawing.
All right, next person to donate $5 and tell us why Bobby Venom's a dirty hippie and leave their Twitch name we'll get a drawing of Captain America. So go to the Kickstarter right now, fund Armikrog with at least $5, and make sure to leave your Twitch handle and call Bobby a dirty hippie.
Oh my god!
All right, Kevin, you ready?
Steady. Alrighty. Is Armikrog inspired by Riven and Mist?
I think that's it.
I would say not directly. Neverhood was definitely inspired by Myst. You know, that was just the end-all be-all for us back then. When I still design puzzles, I still think a lot of the way Robin and Rand, work at Cyan, the way they did Myst, where the way Myst puzzles work, they make you think spatially and not in the same way. So like one of them really accesses your visual and makes you line things up and use your eye to think creatively. And then another one hits your ear and makes you just go, block the rest of your mind off and go to your ear, or a combination of visual and sound. That design, I just think, is fantastic puzzle work. And I really, I still, see them as very high quality, and I hope to hit that kind of thing on Armikrog, as opposed to some crappy sliding tile puzzle, which I've also done.
Oh my god. Doug, are you planning on trying to contact someone famous now that we're in the final rounds and asking them to share the campaign? We gotta make it.
You know what's weird is we're trying, I email, I'll try Notch and all the big guys and all that stuff, and Veronica Belmont tweets us. She's got 1.5 million followers, but really my hope is not in some saving throw from a giant power source. The giant power source that we're exploiting and using and weaponizing is our crowd, is the gamers. So a lot of people, they feel a little shaky and go, who out there is going to save us? Out there is not going to save us. It's going to be us. And you'll rest at night knowing you did it. And if that whole thing crashes, I can sleep just fine, just saying, well, that didn't work. And I hope the game's destiny doesn't come down to some superstar's tweets. But I think Seth Green is going to tweet us, so come on, buddy.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Will there be banter between characters in between puzzles or while walking from one puzzle to another?
Yes, both. So the movies that you see of them bantering will be more character development and more drama and more better camera use, blah, 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 blah. And then during the game there will be small, I would be surprised if Beak didn't have a really inappropriate, funny comment for a whole lot of things that he sees in different rooms.
I gotcha.
Like they stole that from Rayman Origins. No, he wouldn't say that. But he wouldn't say that, but he might be right. If
Oh my goodness. Will there be a way to get a game over in this game? And if so, will it be will it be clearly marked?
A game over? You mean like the death scene in Neverhood? I'm wondering, where there was a game over scene where it says if you go down this hole, you will die forever and you will lose your game. and they jump in the hole, and it wipes the game clean.
Oh.
We really did it.
About.
And people would do it. They would save out the game and then throw down the hole and watch it. And so if that's what he's talking about, no, again, we will have crazy, insane, stupid stuff like that in this game, but it will always be different and creative on its own terms.
Long, super long hallway won't not in this game, but maybe something similar.
Yeah, that will definitely not be in this game, with apologies. But again, even when we were making it, and the whole company was complaining to me, saying, "You're stupid for doing this. Don't do this. They'll hate you for it. You're dumb." And I just go, "I know, but we haven't made them walk 15 minutes to the right anywhere in the game." No, I wouldn't do that again. That was the 27-year-old or 28-year-old designer doing that. And I'm 46.
I like
now.
it. I like it. It's a little sadistic. All right, let's fire out these questions.
All right, let's see. Greetings from Denmark, the land of Legos. What would you do if the campaign is about to fail? Do you have any fail safes ready, or is it definitely game over then?
We've already had this kind of a question before, and in my mind, it's game over. So, but I'm more excited that you come from the land of Legos, and you people are my people. I don't. If it fails, I don't care. I don't care about anything if it fails. So I guess we'll sweep up the pieces and see what happens if it fails. Just in my mind, it was always going to succeed. It still will succeed. It should succeed. I see no evidence that it won't succeed. All the principles are there. Look, we have 13,000 donors. If all of them gave $20 for a second copy of the game, the whole thing would fund today. I trust our people to pull out that kind of a move in the last minute, or today even, more than I trust that we could pick this game up after the pieces are gone. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't do it, but I just I'm sorry, it's Kickstarter or nothing, and the time to start thinking about if this game should exist or not isn't after it fails.
Nice. All right, I think that's all the questions that I wrote down. I'm going to go back to the chat and see if there's any more.
All right. Thank you, Kevan, the super intern. Really kicking some butt today for us, I might add.
Yeah, these are great questions.
Yeah,
too.
so guys, please keep the questions coming. We'll get them on the air. Man, let's see. In the meantime, Bob...
I'll answer any fair question.
Yeah.
Even my underwear size, my yearly salary, not my social security.
All right. What is your underwear size then?
34.
All right. That.
And I like tidy whities, and my wife keeps getting me, because I'm old and I wear my same underwear for like 18 years. They're all stained every which way, and she keeps trying to buy me these color underwear, like blue underwear. I'm like, I'm not wearing blue underwear. And all the new kinds, they're all like baggy. They look like a diaper on me. So I'm walking around in like this baggy diaper. Makes me sick. I'm even sick looking at myself. Whereas if I wear my old tidy whities, then I look kind of cool. Get my 6'8" Mr. Burns had a baby with the alien queen naked body.
It's all about the boxer briefs nowadays. That's what all the kids are wearing. All the cool kids. I don't know.
Wow.
I got those too. They just feel like someone's grabbing my leg, both my legs like this.
Yeah.
Get your hands
I'm not into it myself. I don't know. I like the boxers. I like keeping it kind of like loose and cozy. That's just me, though.
I'm a binary guy. It's either boxers or briefs. I've never worn boxers.
No hybrids.
But I understand those people.
All right. Bobby, you got anything to add to this?
You know what? Yeah, that threw me off completely. But in the same vein, Gumby. So you love Gumby, right?
How is that in the same vein?
That's obvious. That's obviously an influence on Armikrog.
Yeah. Bobby Venom, it goes beyond that. Gumby really is my #1 all-time creation that hit me at that age and is deep in my person. It really is Gumby.
Is that your reason for like animation as a whole? It was Gumby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Harryhausen monsters always turned me on too, but Gumby caught me earlier. So clay animation was really like right around when I was 5. I was watching Gumby, and I watched other fans in their formative years, the way they act when they saw Earthworm Jim when they were 5 in 1994 or something, and it did the same thing to them. So they come at me and they're crying because I'm accessing a part of their brain that's 5 years old, and I've just made them feel 5 again. So that's the kind of things that the things that you put in your mind when you're 5 can do to you, is it takes you back to that innocent period when you first heard that song or first saw that game or whatever. So for me, that thing that accesses my person is Gumby, and it really was, you know, without Gumby there would be no Neverhood. I mean, that's what put the appetite in me when Spielberg said, "What game do you want to make?" I said, "I want to make a fine art clay animation game." And he said, "Okay, yeah, go make that." It was Gumby.
This goes to my second question. What do you feel about the state of American animation today? Like, how do you feel about it?
I was going to ask, who do you like now? Like modern animators?
Who do you hate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate a lot more than I like, but because I hate Flash, and there's a lot of Flash, and I get why people have to do Flash. Because I've been so involved with animation production on the television side that I just see how impossible it is to make a TV show. So it's amazing to me that any TV shows get made, much less animated. And I have a pilot over at Disney right now, and I have another thing that I'm trying out for over at DreamWorks. But it's just, it's a tough business, and I feel for the people that are in that business, and the old men of today, guys like Glenn Keane, who I really, I mean, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that I worship him, but guys like Glenn Keane, I'm real good friends with Tom and Tony Bancroft, who did Pumbaa, you know, and Lion King. They're great animators and great guys. Watching these guys kind of no longer have a place to do 2D animated features really bugs me, because I so respect that medium, and I feel like it went through its own kind of ghetto in the 90s and never had room to break out. You know, you look at what comes out of Japan, and I'm not saying that stuff's incredible either, but it sure as hell isn't what we're doing over here. And you see what's coming out of France, you know, Triplets of Belleville and all that, and you just go, you know, whatever is going on with our market, the influx of cash from the 90s that went into those studios didn't help the artistry of animation long term. It stabilized everyone's jobs and got them all lawyers and benefits, but it didn't help the artistry of what came out. So with the exception of things like Iron Giant, again, where some guy, you know, a door opened up for Brad Bird and he luckily ran through it, or the creation of and development of Pixar, that are doing great work, and even some of their projects I'm not in love with, you know, much these days. But I know I would bet on their creativity that they're going to shake themselves out of whatever problem they've had, more so than someone who just goes and does kind of Me Too formulas. So I kind of see games as being actually hit and damaged much worse than animation was. So animation's in much better condition, I think, than games.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got one last round of questions from the audience for you, Doug. Are you cool with taking a couple minutes to answer those, and then we'll let you go? All right.
Anything, anytime, anywhere.
All right. So we'll get Kevan over here, and let's do one last giveaway, Bobby. We're gonna take our own time. All right. Next giveaway. How about a 2-hour-long play date with me or Bobby Venmous on Xbox Live?
Oh wow, this is
That's right.
This is a big one here.
That is awesome.
For $100. Next person to donate $100. Or Kevan the intern. Kevan the intern's in on this too.
Or Rachel.
Or well, I don't want to. Yeah, let's get. Yeah, Rachel. Why not? Yeah. She'll love that we just volunteered her time in such a manner.
Right.
Yeah.
Rachel's
man.
awesome.
Yeah, Rachel's an awesome gal. She'll probably go along with it. All right. So for $100, you're gonna get a play date with the Weekend Geek crew.
You get to get shot in the head by Rachel.
Yeah, that's right. Rachel will probably own you at a game. She is badass.
Old Blue just pledged $200.
Old Blue just pledged. We already had someone pledge $200. All right, we will be talking to you after the show today.
Thanks, Old Blue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you get to have some fun with me and all the gang. So congratulations to you, and thank you for donating to the Kickstarter. And with that, Kevin, get your butt over here and let's get these questions answered. All right.
Okay. Alrighty. All right, we're gonna bust through these real quick. Alrighty. Wow, this one's. Did you ask Coghead and Metis before you recycled the Bustaped into the Armitage monster?
Okay. I'll explain this question. Mike and I did a puppet animated short called Coghead and Metis in 2001, where Rob Paulson did the voices, and we shot it all in Ed's garage, and it was just it was a failure and we couldn't finish it, but it was like a 12-minute puppet animation. It was awesome. Look up Coghead and Metis on YouTube and you'll see it. So Coghead and Metis.
Link in there.
And there's this vehicle they drove around, had 4 legs called the Bustaped. And the Bustaped was made up of 2 claymation armatures. They were his legs so that they'd walk, and they were adhered into this big cylindrical shape. And we needed a puppet that wouldn't cost any money for Armikrog to make that giant, the hairy monster, which I call the mongrel. So I designed him on paper to loosely fit the architecture of that puppet. And I had to get that giant mouth to open. So I took a hacksaw and I put it on the front end of that vehicle and I slid it right down, all the way down to the butt, so it would hinge open and close. And then I glued a bunch of wire in the back so the throat would open and close. And I built the puppet up from that. I took some of the rubber off and put on fur and put on the eyes and all that stuff. Just real handcrafted stuff. So yeah, that puppet gave its life for our little pitch.
And that's just wonderful. Let's see. Will Armikrog be localized?
Not fully. We won't be doing translations of voices, unless we get another $8 million. No. But we'll definitely be doing translations of subtitles and things like that. And I think we've already announced, because we've had fans, not just fans, but companies that do translations that are fans. We didn't want just fans to do it, but companies that do translations have already contacted us and say, we're in Poland and we'll localize the translation for you. We're in Spain, we'll localize it for you. We're in Russia. So that's because normally it would cost us probably about 40 or 50 grand to hit every language, and we don't have that kind of money on this budget. So we have to try and somehow do it for, like, say, 20 grand, and we're hoping that all of the languages that come in, because we have a ton of international donors. At least half our donors are international. Okay. So we knew that we had to do some of that localization, just not a full one. We can't afford to do original voices.
Okay. All right. Because they've been asking this for a while now. Could you do a quick voiceover as Clog real quick?
How about...
Oh, man.
Do you want to answer the next question as Clog?
Yeah, answer the next question as Clog.
Okay, here we go.
All right, what's
next question?
How do you approach drawing puzzles that involve rotating pieces of the fortress? In my mind, it's difficult to envision multiple rooms in different states on the same paper. How do you keep the puzzles organized in your head in a certain order, in other words?
This is Clog. And yes, it is true that it is hard to visualize things in the human mind spatially. Which is why I built it all out in cardboard first. I don't even know if that's accurate.
Wow. Wow. That was impressive.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh my god.
Let's
that's just wrong in like 50 different ways.
How many more questions we got?
We've got about think about maybe about 6 or 7.
All right, we're not going to get to all of those. Let's give us the next 2 best questions.
The 2 best questions? I don't know if
Kevin the intern, you must make these decisions.
Oh my god.
Your choice.
Pressure's on.
Kevin's judging
Yeah,
you
there
people.
can only
He's
be
judging
two.
you.
Hold on. All right.
Joking him.
Let's see. Will there be a radio in the game? I really enjoyed all of the tracks you could listen to in the radio puzzle in Neverhood, especially sound effects record number 32.
I know there won't be a formal radio in this game simply because it already existed in Neverhood, so we're going to steer away from it. But I am considering something really stupid and crazy where I want Terry Taylor to be a character in the game. So it could be like a TV video of him, like in black and white, this old man playing guitar, and it'll actually be him. I have to find a way to justify it in the story. But it would be a way that you could click and get musical clues where he wrote the song and put it in rhyme, and you have to figure it out. I just think that'd be the most ass-kicking puzzle. It's another example of like how funky we think when we think about puzzles is we don't feel limited at all by the games that have been made and what has to be done by the culture of gaming. We just go, wow, wouldn't it be really stupid and crazy to try and pull this off?
That's cool. Let's see. How about Doug? What do you think about the idea of creating a fictional universe where you let your fans create the story with you?
That's something I'm really not into, and that's that really is where I part ways with a lot of games. Like Mike and Ed, we came up with those tiers where you can name a planet and you can name a character in Armikrog. You can even buy into a tier where we'll put your name in one of Terry Taylor's songs. You put your fiance's name or whatever. Guys, it's a really good move to do that on your fiance. And I feel uncomfortable with that because usually I really do have a no other people allowed in creating my stuff. But games are really changing, and really Kickstarter's different too in that the donors really are members of the team. So they're not strict members of an audience or even traditional players where you make something first and throw it on them and you don't really have to listen to what they have to say. So I'm much more open with even the ethics of inviting other people to come in with ideas and things like that. The bigger problem is lawsuits where if we use someone's idea, they're going to come back and sue us for content and say, you promise this amount of royalties, whatever, multiply that times 1,000. You just need to find the biggest prick in the room to sue you, and that'll shut that down forever. So it's really more legal reasons that stop it than anything else. But in general, I don't take outside ideas in general. And it goes back to kind of, my favorite movie, one of my favorite all-time movies is Jaws. And I just kind of think, what would happen if in the last act of that story or the last couple of scenes of that story, Spielberg turned to me and said, how do you want it to end? Here's the camera. How do you want it to end? And I just kind of go, I'm here to listen to your story. It's your turn, and I want you to do your thing. And I could never change one frame of Jaws. And that's kind of how I feel about other people's projects. Is I don't want to go in and edit it and change it if I like it. I want it to be exactly the way they made it. I don't want to go in and remake Gumby my way. I have no interest in that whatsoever, even though I worship and love the character.
Mm.
In fact, if people are that inclined to be creative, and let's say that they don't want to do fan fiction, I'd rather they create their own thing and just put up a website of your amazing story and get friends to help illustrate it. I'm always telling other creators, like, you have to do what I did, is make. You need to make. That's all I've done every day of my life. Even when I'm not paid to do games, I'm still designing games. I'm just not getting paid to do it. Even on Armikrog, I'm not getting paid to do it.
All right, and I guess we got one super important question.
Just one last question.
All right, All right, what is the one last important question, Kevin? Get in here.
Come on. What do you like about the current state of gaming? Is there anything that came out recently that made you feel like there is a place for a claymation game?
I played Rayman Origins with my children, and I was really impressed with that game as a designer. I think it's really well done and solid. I don't think it's mind-blowing or anything, but that could just as easily have been puppet animation. There's no reason for other people to do it. It's our job to do it. So I don't expect other people to do our job. I expect us to do our job, and I expect other people to do their job. And that includes Call of Duty. I'd love to play Call of Duty. I love playing Plants vs. Zombies. I love playing, when my son sits down with me, I curl up with him and we play Angry Birds. I just, I guess I'm more open to the genre. I wish it was more open and more creative and more broad by more different people. So that's my big answer is it's not even important what I play. I wish there was more good stuff. Kind of when you go to the movies and the last 3 movies you see suck, you go, what are these people doing? I mean, you're paid to make a movie, and you're paid $100 million, and you can't tell a freaking simple story, even about one of the world's most popular comic book characters. What's wrong with you? So it's like, do your job. But when you see like a professional football player, he's only paid like $80 million a year to make one catch, and the ball goes right in his hand and it bounces off. I'm like, what are you paid to do? And I just want everyone else to do their job, and I'll do my job. And the players do their job.
As a Raiders fan, I can definitely relate to what you were saying. So with that, Doug, we're gonna wrap things up here. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. This was a fantastic interview. You have a lot of very insightful things to say about the game industry and animation. And if you haven't gone and backed Armikrog already, please go and back it now. I'll tell you what, next person to donate $500 and leave a note saying why Armikrog is so awesome, as well as your Twitch handle on the Kickstarter, I will write a song for you and dedicate it to you.
Wow.
Oh, that is awesome.
Can we make a YouTube video for it, directed by
Bobby
me?
Venom will direct the YouTube video.
I'll direct the music video.
And I'll spread the link around. I'll spread the link around to our 40,000 followers on the Neverhood fan page on Facebook. So it'll help you.
Please, guys, donate to this and let's see if we can make that extra goal so we can get it on the Wii U, because I really want to use that beak butt cam. That just looks so awesome. And it'll give me an awesome use for my Wii U controller too.
All right.
Bobby and Blake, thanks so much for having me on the show, and Kevan the intern, thanks for your help. And to all the listeners and all our donors, we're really the Armikrog team, Mike and Ed and I, we're so turned on by what you're doing already. We're so thankful. We just can't believe. Our donors are really kind, and they're really cool and really generous, and we're forever in your debt.
Awesome. That is freaking awesome. And apparently Rift Tracks tweeted this out, which is huge for me because I am such a huge nerd for Rift Tracks. So
Mike freaking
Nelson. Well, you and Mike, I grew up watching both of your guys' work. Well, playing your work and watching Mike's work. So if anything, you guys are definitely a reason why I'm here today doing what I do. And so thank you guys for that. And I'm in love with Armikrog. I hope you guys the big success. And I'm sure you guys will make it. And I
agree. I think we are too.
Right. And everyone who tuned in today, thank you for tuning in and asking your questions. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. with Trade In Tuesdays. Bobby, you and me are going to be playing a little more Anarchy Reigns, I believe. All right, good. And this Q&A will still be available.
Sounds good.
And so please check it out, subscribe, and come back all the times. Thank you again, Doug, and we will see y'all later.